Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 273 of The Pulp Ritter Show. My name is Jonathan Moeller. Today is October the 17th, 2025, and today we have an interview with audiobook narrator Hollis McCarthy. Hollis has narrated many audiobooks, including numerous books from the Ghost and Cloakmage series, so we'll talk with her about that. Before we get to our main topic, we will have a coupon of the week, and then a progress update on my current writing projects. This week's coupon code will get you 25% off the ebooks in the Dragonskull series at my PayHip store. And that coupon code is Dragonskull25, DRAGONSKULL25. The coupon code is valid through October the 27th, 2025, so if you need some new ebooks to read for this fall, we've got you covered. And as always, the coupon code and the links to my store will be available in the show notes. Now for an update on my current writing projects. As of this recording, I am 80% of the way through the first round of edits in Cloak of Worlds, so making good progress, and if all goes well, the book should be out before the end of the month. I'm also 14,000 words into Blade of Shadows, which will be my next main project after Cloak of Worlds is published, which means I also have to write the outline for Elven Assassin soon, and that will be the 5th book in the Riva series. In audiobook news, recording will be underway next week for for Blade of Flames. That will be narrated excellently by Brad Wills. And Ghosts and Siege is now out. It should be available at all the audiobook stores except Spotify, and it should be available there in a few days. And that is the final book in my Ghost Armor series that is excellently narrated by Hollis McCarthy. So that is where I'm at with my current writing and audiobook and publishing projects, which makes for a good segue into our main topic, our interview with Hollis McCarthy, which begins now. Hi, everyone. I'm here today with Hollis McCarthy, who is a classically trained actor and actor combatant. Hollis has played leads in regional and off-Broadway theater, specializing in Shakespeare. On CBS, she's been a recurring guest star judge on Bull, the President of Ireland on Blue Bloods, and a senator on Netflix's House of Cards. She has narrated more than 300 books for a variety of publishers, and is the proud co-author of her mom Dee Maltby's epic fantasy series, The Magic of Larleon. Hollis, thanks for coming on the show today.
My pleasure.
So to start, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into acting and performing?
That's a great question. I think it all started with doing my little brother's Sesame Street finger puppets. He's 10 years younger than me, so I mean, I got to reread all my favorite books with him, and I started voicing the finger puppets to, Bert and Ernie and Cookie and all those guys in the back seat of the car and playing all the characters. And then my brother went into theater. The other brother's 7 years older than me, and I used to go see his shows up at the college when I was in high school and kind of fell in love with it there. I absolutely meant to be an aeronautical engineer, physicist, like my dad, but it didn't end up working out. I fell in love with theater and went to Stratford. I had a dual major because I was honors program, so I didn't have to declare a major till like my 5th year of undergrad. But then I went to Stratford up in Canada, and I saw 2 Shakespeare shows in one day, and that was it. I had to do that. That was what I loved. So.
No, since we've had many audiobooks together, I'm glad it worked out that way.
Me too. Yeah. So I got my BFA in acting, and then I got my MFA from the University of Missouri, Kansas City, in performance. And I was lucky enough to have some great coaches from the RSC, and did a bunch more Shakespeare. And I've done that regionally a lot. And then I fell into audiobooks because I got tired of traveling, and I love to work from my home in my jammies,
That is the dream.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, could you tell us a bit more about how you sort of got into audiobooks or ended up doing a lot of that?
Yeah, well, again, it starts with my childhood. My mom, who was a writer and an artist, there were 5 of us kids, and and she would read out loud to us in the kitchen to keep us from fighting when we were cleaning up. So she started with Tolkien and Watership Down and Narnia and all of that. And then I got to, like I said, read to my little brother all my favorite books. And so I started doing all different voices for the characters, and I always thought that was normal until, of course, I like volunteered to read in class in high school, and people thought I was some sort of freak. But I always loved playing all the characters, and so when I started looking at staying home more and what could I do to work from home instead of being on the road for work, which was great for a long time. But then, at some point you want to stay home and have a life as an actor
Hmm.
as well as do what you love. And audiobooks seemed a good fit. So my husband, who's also an actor, took a class from Paul Rubin here in the city in New York. We live in the New York area now. And he got a bunch of good tips from that he passed on to me. And then my agent got me an audition with Audible. And Mike Chartzik there, I came in and read a couple of pieces for him, and he came back to the booth with a book he wanted me to start on. And from there, I just kept building and got a lot of great indie authors through ACX like you. I don't know how many books we've done together now.
It's over
Uh,
30, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, 30
Yeah.
over the last 7 years, so it's been a while.
And your series, I mean, I'm not saying this because I'm on your blog, but your series are absolutely my favorites,
Oh, thank
especially
you.
because, yeah, the two series that I do, one is Nadia from the Midwest, like me,
Hmm.
and then the other one, Kana, the epic fantasy world, which uses all my British and Irish bits, and yeah, and I absolutely love them. So yeah, I've just kept building up, getting in with a few more publishers now, which is harder to do. Um, and I just love it. Our first booth, when the pandemic hit, we had to build a booth at home.
Hmm.
And I had been going to studios in the city up until that point. But it hit pretty suddenly. It was obvious on St. Patrick's Day when it was like us going to the studio and people who were absolutely desperate folks were the only other ones on the street. We had to stay home. So my husband took our rapier blade, and we fight with swords. We're actor combatants, like you said.
Hmm.
So he took two broadsword blades and a rapier blade. He's handy with carpentry, fortunately. That's how he worked his way through school. And he bracketed those to the wall. And we ordered through Amazon before they kind of shut down too. We ordered packing blankets to hang over them, and I ordered a new microphone and a new interface, and it was trial and error for a bunch of days. And we had an engineer on call who like talked us through how to run the software programs and stuff, how to set them up. And from there, I've just kept recording at home. I sometimes still go into the studios, when they
Hmm.
have a budget where they can spring for a studio, but mostly they want you to work from home these days. So that's mostly what I do.
Well, building a recording booth out of swords, that's very Kana.
Yeah, it's very Kana. I love Kana. Kana is me as a young woman. If I had, yeah, if I had been a superhero, I would have been Kana. All my favorite roles in Shakespeare were the girl as boy,
Hmm.
ones where you got to. And you asked one of my favorite roles in theater
Hmm.
was when I was at Alabama Shakespeare, and I was playing Queen Elizabeth in Richard III, and dressing in gorgeous gowns and being very seductive and very powerful
Hmm.
and manipulative and all that. But in the earlier scenes we did the three plays in the Richard III and the Henry VI. We did all three. And in the earlier scenes where Elizabeth wasn't in, I got to dress up in doublet and hose, and I even I stippled stipple a beard on my face, and climbed a siege ladder with a sword in one hand, and did a spectacular pratfall, running away from the bad guys, and would slide on my stomach on the deck of the stage, and I would come out into the lobby, and the other guys who were playing my fellow fighters would be holding up rating cards for how far I'd slid that day.
Sounds like
So
very practical cardio.
yeah, very. It was a lot of fun. That was probably my most fun I've ever done. Though I also loved Beatrice in Much Ado, which I got to do twice
Hmm.
because she's just so funny and witty and passionate. She's great. And Shakespeare.
Very good. So
Mm.
after all these audiobooks, what goes into preparing to record an audiobook?
That's a great question too. It depends on the book, really. And I'm lucky enough to do a lot of series now. So when you're doing a series, it gets easier as you go along. I remember with the first ones of I did for you, the first
Hmm.
Cana. It probably took me an hour of prep to get through the first chapter because there were so many made up place names that I needed to figure out how to say. And then you have to be consistent.
Hmm.
Even if they're made up, you still have to be consistent. So um, I really used my theater training there because I learned the International Phonetic Alphabet when I was in school. And so I can write down phonetic pronunciations. And I keep, for each book, I'm old school with my prep. I'll keep a legal pad and I'll write down phonetic pronunciations, the word, page number, and the phonetic pronunciation for each word. So I have a record because you don't retain them from book to
No.
book. So pronunciations is a big part of what you do. Also, character voices, because again, you want to be true to the author's intent and you want to stay consistent. Again, like for Kana, it became very complicated because you had to have Kana's basic voice, which is this. She's kind of,
Hmm.
she's started out a bit higher because she was younger, and then as she aged, she's gotten more, more medium, um, pitch wise. But then she was in disguise as various people. She was disguised as a Cockney guy for a while, and she was an Irish guy for a while. And so for each of those personas, you have to notate for yourself in the script, oh, now she has this accent, now she has this one. And really, for each chunk of dialogue, every time a character speaks, I'll put the initial of their name. And if there are a lot of characters in the scene, I will have to differentiate between them pretty frequently. If it's two characters and I know them both very well, then I kind of have the shorthand in my head. But so the different character voices I also put on my legal pad, so I have a record. So Calvia, well, this sounds like this,
Hmm.
and uh, Muravan. I liked him. He was like Turk, kind of, and a big guy with a barrel chest. And sometimes I'll write down physical aspects of them so that I can just kind of feel the character. And after I do them for a while, the feel of the character will give me the voice. So, and you write down everything that the author says about the character too. I'll just notate for myself because that will oftentimes give you the voice if it's a good author, which thank God you are. You write in
Thank you.
different voices, which makes my job easier.
The joke I sometimes say is I didn't do audiobooks for the first 7 years I was publishing, and people would ask me, "How do you pronounce this?" And I say, "I don't care. Pronounce it however you want." And then we started doing audiobooks, and suddenly, no, it matters very much how it's pronounced.
Yeah, exactly. It was it's funny, I'm just looking at my tablet. I have your Shield of Power up on my tablet. I've been reading that on the treadmill and at lunch. But yeah, we have to keep tabs. And when we have so
Hmm.
many books now, I've started special folders just for the Ghost series and the Cloak series because yeah, a lot of times a character will show up from several books previous and you
Hmm.
go, I remember them, but I don't remember what they
Yeah,
sounded like. So I will have notated like forward, alto, slightly Irish, or something like that for them. I have shorthand for all of it, and so I'll do that. But
yeah. I've spent a lot of time with Control F searching through Word documents, trying to remember the first time I wrote this character and what they looked like.
yeah, I bet you do. Some writers, I guess, do well. If they don't do it all themselves, and if they have somebody who's like an administrative assistant, they have somebody who gives you. I've gotten these from authors before. Their assistant will send me a story log of characters with everything that's said about the character. I'm like, oh well, that's very organized and helpful. But I would think it would be massively time consuming.
It is. I did hire someone to help me with that this year because it was getting to be too much to go back and search through things. And it is a very time-consuming project, but once it's done, it's very helpful because it's quite easy to find things and look things up and refresh your memory.
Yeah, yeah, when I was working on my mom's books, we hired an editor and she did a spreadsheet, a database kind of different terms and characters and like what was said about them. And I go back to that and amend it all the time now that I'm trying to write book 8.
Yeah, that kind of thing is very helpful. But
Yeah.
on a related topic of preparation, since you've done audiobooks, stage, and TV, how would you say narrating audiobooks differs from the experience of doing theater or TV?
The major thing and the hardest thing for me when I was starting out was you can't move around all the time. You know, I'm I had an engineer at Audible that was just and a lot of times the chair is very important because if you move,
Hmm.
which you're bound to do, if you're producing your voice correctly, you need to sit up and you need to use your hands to express yourself, and you have to have an absolutely silent chair. And the chairs at Audible at that time were not absolutely silent. So every time I moved,
Uh-oh.
chair would squeak and we'd have to stop and start again. So that was very, very hard for me. In fact, I've been doing so much audiobooks now, and I also do TV and film, but that's gone to all for auditioning for that. It's all self-tape, which means it's just like Head and Shoulders. So
Hmm.
still, you're just kind of using a little part of your body. And I had a theater callback for Pygmalion in the city the other day in person, like in a studio, in a
Nice.
rehearsal room. I know. And the day before, I used to do those all the time. And that's so rare now for them to do in-person auditions since the pandemic.
Hmm.
But I put on my character shoes and my skirt and I practiced just being bigger, opening my body up and doing all the stuff I learned to do in school and that you do when you're on stage to own the space, because it's the space is the back wall of the theater.
Hmm.
And that's a big difference between theater, film, TV, and audiobooks is the scope of it. I when I did Beatrice, I was in an 1,100 seat unamplified stone amphitheater outdoors in Colorado. So you can imagine the scope physically and vocally is so big. And then for TV film, you have to what they say reach the back wall, whatever space you're in. Well, for film and TV, the back wall is the camera. It's right in front of your face a lot of the times, and the back wall is really kind of the inside of your head. It's almost like you have to have internal gaze so that the thoughts are just happening. You don't have to project them. You don't have to project your voice because all the equipment comes right to you. And all you have to do is feel the feelings and think the thoughts, and the camera and microphone pick that up. Similarly with audiobooks, I'm just in a little tiny padded booth. My microphone is just a few inches from my face. And so I can be very, very intimate and everything gets picked up. And you have to do a lot less work for the emotion to come through. Again, really, all you have to do is kind of feel the emotion. And for me, I mean, that's always for me is being in the moment and feeling the moment and letting that dictate the pace and the vocals and everything. I guess I'm pretty method. I'm very method, but that's how I trained. It's what works for me. Not every narrator is like that. There's a million different proper ways to narrate, and that's just my take on it. But everything is right there, so it's just kind of keeping it much smaller and more intimate. And in fact, when you want to be big, like Maravin's voice, and he was yelling a lot, and I would have to pull back from the microphone to let his scope kind of come out.
Well, after
Yeah.
30 audiobooks together, I can say that method definitely works.
Oh, good. Good.
Related to that, as we mentioned earlier, you're now at over 300 titles on Audible over the last 12 years. Congratulations for that.
Thank
And
you.
what would you say is most surprising or unexpected things about audiobooks you learned during that time?
Oh, well, it was very surprising that we could make a booth out of sword blades and blankets. That surprised me. Um, yeah, that's a great question. It's surprising to me how simple I can be. I went back and I had a author recently who wanted me to do a new chapter to begin and end a book that I had done like 2014, something like that, shortly after I started. And I thought at the time that I was really filling these voices, and it's what I did was fine. You're always your own worst critic. But what I've discovered now is the more you do it, the more you record, the more you use your instrument every single day for 300 some books, the more effortless it becomes and the more depth you can bring to it. And as a young actor, we always resist that. My acting coach used to say, age and experience, there's no substitute for it. I'm like, yeah, but talent and hard work does something. But, but it's really true that just the repetition, there's no substitute for it. Those chapters that I did, they were the same voices, basically. But when I went back and listened to the original, I was like, oh, it surprised me how, without really changing anything mechanically, the work has just gotten deeper, more effortless, but it sounds better at the same time. Does that make sense?
It does. Because you've probably noticed I've redesigned the covers for the Kana series like 7 times over the last 10 years. And every time you think, this is it, I'm done, this is good. And then with more practice, you look back and think, well, maybe I can improve this again. Though I suppose that's not often something that happens in the audiobook world where you get to go back and revisit something you did previously.
That is one of the hardest and most surprising things about audiobook. And I've heard people say that this happens to excuse me, to every young narrator when they're starting out. You get through like the first two chapters of a new book and you go, oh God, now I get it. I want to go back and start again. Well, there's no do-overs,
Hmm.
with audiobooks, done is good is what they always tell you when you're starting out. So even in theater, film, or even in film and TV, which you don't get much rehearsal for, you get a couple of run throughs. But with audiobooks, you got your prep. I'm not everyone does, but I always read the whole book before I start, if possible, because otherwise you get surprises. But you get your one read through, your prep, and then you go. And yes, you can stop, you can punch and roll, edit over. If you make a mistake, you go back half a line, you start again there. But there's no evolution of the work, which is what's
Hmm.
great about series too, I think, because with the series, you get, yeah, Kana was here last time I did her, and now she's going through something new, and then the character grows, and it becomes less and less effortful, but it also becomes like someone you really know. So
Hmm.
it gets so much deeper, and it's so much more fun to play with.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, 12 years really is a long time to have done audio narration or anything. So what do you think is the key to sticking it out for audiobooks for the long term?
Well, a lot of things make a difference. I didn't do it before this interview, which is why my voice is kind of rocky, but I always warm up in the morning when I'm setting up a session. I always do a vocal warm up. Uh, you got to get a good night's sleep. You have to drink water every couple of pages. I have a tea that I drink that keeps my stomach quiet, because stomach gurgles is another bad thing about audiobooks. You have to eat very carefully and drink tea to keep your stomach quiet, because you don't want to have to stop every time for that. And a lot of training, a lot of vocal training. I had Linklater training and the Levon training, and Linklater to me is the most useful. And a lot of the stuff that applies to Shakespeare applies to audiobooks too. You warm up, you get yourself breathing, you warm up your resonators, your sinus, your mask resonators, the back of your head, your chest resonators. These are for the men. You really have to have your chest warmed up, get the vibrations going here. And so I get all that kind of going before I sit down in the booth. And that also then you keep your throat open so you're not hurting yourself. You have to have good posture so that the air can move from your diaphragm up through your throat and have it be open. And then optimally, like with Kana, Kana has a lot of mask. See, I don't have my mask resonators warmed up. Kana has a lot of mask resonance. The Brits do. They are very far forward. So you really have to have all that warmed up. And then that has to have no impediments between, the front of your face all the way down to your diaphragm where the breath originates. And if you can do all that, uh, then you can be an audiobook narrator. Also diction. I warm up my diction to everything from bada to toy boat, toy boat, toy boat. Um, she stood on the balcony, inexplicably mimicking hiccuping and amicably welcoming him in, just to get your mouth moving, because you don't want lazy mouth. There's a lot of enunciation in audiobooks that's important, but I also don't like. I really hate when you hear people enunciating. I
Hmm.
don't like that. And as like with Kana, even though she's upper class, she's not like that. She's not pretentious.
Hmm.
And certainly Nadia, you want to be able to understand what she says, but you don't want her to be like enunciating. That would be weird.
Hmm.
So yeah. So all that stuff I worked on in grad school and in all the Shakespeare plays, I would always get to the theater uh, an hour early. You have to be there a half hour for makeup and check-in, but I would always get there an hour early and do at least 15 to 20 minutes of physical and vocal warm-ups. And so those habits have really helped me. I think I have pipes of iron, fortunately. I'm very lucky. So all that stuff really matters with audiobooks.
It's amazing in how many different fields of life the answer seems to boil down to do the things you're supposed to over and over again forever.
Exactly. That's really true. When are we going to get old enough we don't have to do that anymore?
Just one side question. What is link letter trading? I don't think I've heard that term before.
Oh, Kristen Linklater is she's a probably the biggest American vocal coach. She has a lot of books out there about voice and the actor. And all of her training stems from allowing the breathing to drop in, as she calls it, not forcing it to drop into the diaphragm, and then creating a pool of vocal vibrations that go from the diaphragm through an open throat to the resonators. And you can use every resonator in your body to project that sound. When I was doing Beatrice and Gertrude at Colorado Shakes in that unamplified stone amphitheater in the foothills of the Rockies, there was wind that would come down out of the mountains when we were on stage. And that theater was known for eating women's voices. Um, and I had to thank God the vocal coach that summer was a Linklater coach, which is the method that I trained in. And he helped me work with even resonators, if you can imagine, in your back, just using the whole chest box and shaking the vibrations through your body, so that basically you're making your whole human skeleton an amplifier for the vocal energy coming from your breath. And that's Linkletter. She's fascinating. If you ever want to study voice, you can't do better than Linkletter, to my mind. Cecily Berry is another one I studied. She's the British guru for the RSC and the Royal Shakespeare Company and all those people, and she's great too.
Well, that is exciting because I have learned something new today.
That's always good. I'm
To
always
turn it,
learning new things from your books too about medieval combat and
we always
how
want
to
to learn
save
something
your
new every
life.
day, whether we like it or not.
Right.
So to turn it around a little bit, what advice would you give a new indie author who is working with a narrator for the first time?
Oh yeah, I made some notes. I thought that was such a good question. Uh, Make sure that your narrator knows what you expect from them up front. If you go through ACX, they have this great thing called the first 15, where your narrator is, if you're new to this author, you record the first 15 minutes of the book and you put that on ACX for your author to listen to and approve. You don't have to approve it if you don't like it. And in fact, if you don't like it, it's very important you don't approve it and you tell your narrator specifics about what you need them to change before they go on with the book. Because what you can't really do is, once a book is recorded, say, "Oh, I really don't like it. I'm not going to pay you for it. I need you to go back and do it again." That's not acceptable, and it will make narrators never want to work with you. But what's great about the first 15 is you have that chance to say, "Well, this voice was she was a little higher than I wanted. I hear her in my head more as an alto." Because for me as a narrator, what I want to do is I want to take what you, Jonathan, hear your characters being as you're writing them in your head. I want to take that and translate that into an audiobook for you. So the more you give your narrators information about your characters, the better they're going to voice it. Also, if there's a style in your head, like with the Nadia books, there's a little touch of noir there.
Hmm.
It was a dark and stormy night, kind of feel. If there's a style you kind of hear in your head, that would be a good thing to give them. But ACX has also, I think, a character sheet where you can like tell them about the different characters. You can fill that out for your narrator. That's tremendously helpful. If age of the character, the if you hear a vocal pitch range, soprano, alto, tenor, bass, any dialects, they need to know that. This is the narrator's nightmare is you finish up a book and you shouldn't do this because you should read ahead, but you get to the last line. I love you, darling, he said in his beautiful French accent. Yeah,
It explicitly shows up there for the first time.
exactly. And then for the narrator, it's like, oh my God, I have to go back and re-record everything this guy said, which is hours and hours and hours of work for you and your editor who will kill you. But yeah, let them know about all the character traits that you can. And just I think it's on the narrator to I've been lucky with my authors. We always have a good give and take. I come from a theater background and you want to collaborate. You want to realize the author's vision and uh, you want to be a partner, you want in creating that. So try to be partners and give them more information than you think they need, and use that first 15. It is totally acceptable to send it back and say, I'm going to need you to do this again, and I'm going to need these changes. And then once you get that ironed out, then you'll probably be ready to go ahead and have a book. And when you get the book, you won't be shocked and you'll be happy, hopefully, with the read.
Well,
Does
very
that
good.
help?
It does.
Mhm.
New authors, if you're listening to this, listen to that advice.
Yeah.
Now for a slightly different topic. Can you tell us about the magic of Larlian books and how you ended up publishing that series?
Yeah. The Magic of Lorlean is an epic fantasy adventures series, 7, almost 8 volumes. I'm working on finishing book 8 now. The first book, Wizard's Stone, my brilliant mother, Dee Maltby, uh, started years and years ago, probably, gosh, maybe 20 years ago now. I think when my little brother moved out from home and she had an empty nest and she had more time to write. And she wrote Wizard Stone, and she sent it out a few places. And that was the only way you could get published back when she
Mhm.
wrote it. And didn't pursue it. She got discouraged, I think, by rejections from publishers. Sat in her drawer for a while. And my sister-in-law, Dana Benningfield, who's also an actor, and she was my best friend even before she married my brother. I introduced them, so that was all me. She was an editor professionally for a while. And when she moved to Ohio, where I'm from, and was living with my brother, and my parents lived right across the orchard, I told her about this book, and she wasn't editing at the time. She was kind of done with it, but she asked mom if she could read it. So she read it and edited it, and then it became a much better book. And it really encouraged my mom to keep writing, which I had been telling her to do for years. But hearing somebody who wasn't family somehow giving her that
Mhm.
input that it was really something special uh, changed her perspective. So she kept writing, and she and I started. I was on the road doing Shakespeare a lot. We started trading chapters. She'd send me a chapter a week, and I would edit it and send it back. And so Wizard Stone evolved from there into its current form. And then she started the next book, Wizard Wind and Wizard Storm, and we went that way through uh, five and a half books. And my dad finally, when he retired from being a physicist, said he was going to. I always told you I'd get you published, D. I'm going to take it down to the print shop and get 100 copies made. And by this time, I was working with you and a bunch of other great indie authors who were letting thousands of happy readers read their books through an independent platform. And I said, well, wait a minute, I could do better than that. So I convinced them to hire an editor that I had worked with, and I did the rewrites and got it through the pre-production process, and hired a cover artist, very talented artist. And you and Mira Platt, another of my authors, gave me so much information and help. And we got it published in 2022, I believe. We had 3 ready to go, and we published those all within a month. of each other, one a month for 3 months, and then 4 and 5, and then 6 came, and I co-authored 5, 6, and 7 because my mother was losing her sight and her hearing at that point. So we got those done, and we had 6 out, and a lot of people reading them and loving them and reviewing them before my mom passed. And I think it's probably one of the most satisfying things I've done in my life, because not only do I love the books and they're just a rip roaring, fantastic adventure filled, epic trip through this incredible world my mom invented, but when she was about to, one of the last things she said to me was, I told her how many people had read her books, because I just went through the Kindle numbers, and thousands of people in different
Hmm.
countries, and all over the world were reading and loving her books. And I told her that, and she said, "That's all that matters." and and she felt such a sense of pride in herself and accomplishment, because they were being received for what they are, which is a brilliant, creative, light of fancy, this magical world in the tradition of all the books she loved, always, Tolkien. Um, and so I promised her I'd finish. So after she died, I published 6 and 7, and I've got 8, about 90% written now. And I'm hoping to bring that out by the end of the year. Although I've been too darn busy with narration to really to spend the time. I've got the big climactic Jonathan Mulder type
Yeah.
battle at the end sketched in my head and on an outline, but I gotta write that, and then we can get that out there and finish
So
that too.
will you
But
stop with 8 or keep going after 8?
my feeling is that this series will culminate with book 8. It's been a long saga of Benabin, this young wizard who kind of gets flung off a mountain by his evil wizard master, and has to master his fledgling wizardry powers and his magical sword to win his love, Lorena, a powerful sorceress, and save the kingdom. And that's book 1. And there's ice dragons, and then they have kids, and then the later books have become much more about their kids. And the more I write, the more it's become about young women fighting with swords
Well, they say
and
what great
defeating,
what you know. So,
defeating the bad guys, plucky young women, overachieving with competing with men, uh, so I think that's all going to come to a head with book 8, and that will be the end of that series. But I do think I'm going to spin it off into possibly more on the younger characters. I don't know if it's going to be YA per se. I think it'll still be for adults, but
mhm.
more of a YA feel to it. The younger characters of the ice dragon riding school of battle, and the wizarding school. I don't know if I want to make it schools necessarily, because it might
Mhm.
limit you too much, and that's kind of been done too. But I do think the ice dragons are going to figure largely in it. Oh, and I don't know. There's a plot point I probably shouldn't give away, but there is my mother's full name was Willa D. Maltby. She writes under D. Maltby, and
Mhm.
there is a character, a very magical character, a new species to Lorien named Willa that shows up in this book 8. So I think Willa will be a big character going forward, and the younger generation of women and some boys too, because I like boys. I do.
Well, I suppose if people want to know more, they will have to read and find out.
Yes, and please go to the website is dmaltbyauthor.com. That's DEEMALTBY author.com. So, and everything you want to know, well, maybe not everything, but everything you can know for now is there.
Well, I was going to ask you what you would say was the most rewarding things about publishing the books, but I think you covered that pretty well. So on the flip side, what was the biggest unexpected challenge in publishing them?
The PR is hard. I mean,
Yes.
you seem to be great at it, but
Thank you.
I even did PR professionally between to work my way through undergrad, and then I had in between grad school and undergrad, and after I graduated, and I had an assistantship in it. at my university, but the book world specifically is a whole different kind of PR, and learning Amazon ads and
Hmm.
Facebook ads, and uh, it's a lot. It's a lot. And
Yeah.
again, you have been so helpful with it. And I mean, there are a lot of online resources out there too, which is great. But what I'm really finding, trying to do it part time, is overwhelming. You really need a full time block of time to not only write the books, but then to publicize them the way they deserve to be publicized.
Yeah, the tricky part is, as you said, book advertising is very different from anything else. Um,
Yeah,
because I was talking with a guy who is a Amazon reseller for like various toiletries and hygiene products and makes a good living doing that. I was telling him how much I pay per click on Amazon ads. He's just appalled. It's like you can't make any money doing that.
yeah,
Um, and then the flip side of that too is that internet marketing is so different than any other kind of form of PR. So it's just
yeah.
sort of constant challenge there.
I know. And I know I actually signed up for a TikTok account, and I just don't, again, at the time, plus every time I turn it on, I'm like, I don't want to watch that. You know what
Exactly.
I mean? I'm like allergic to the format. You'd think, being an actor, being used to being on camera, I could
Mm,
come up easy with little things to do for the books, and I probably could for TikTok. But again, just learning the platform and then applying yourself to it is just such a big time hack that I
mm,
don't have that kind of time. I know that narrators are now more and more marketing themselves by recording themselves on camera narrating and putting that out there, which I can do, I guess. And that's why I got this ring light and everything. I can do that now. I haven't done anything with it, but I guess if some of the bookwork dries up, I'll be more motivated to do more of it.
mm. Well, that's how anything works. You try it, and if you enjoy it and it works, keep doing it. And if you don't enjoy it and it doesn't work, no point in carrying on with it.
I think that's true. Yeah. And you just have to keep learning too,
Yeah.
as we know with everything, you got to keep learning new things.
Well, this has been a very enjoyable interview, and thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, my
And
pleasure.
let's close out with one last question. You've obviously done a lot of theater. So what out of all the productions you've done was the one you would say was your favorite or that you enjoyed the most?
I think I have to go back to Beatrice probably. I mean, the Alabama Shakes getting to play a man thing, that was a lot of fun. But Beatrice, we did a Wild West, Much Ado About Nothing at Colorado Shakespeare, where I got to enter the stage. The premise was that I was the niece of Leonardo, who is the tavern keeper, the bar keep in this Wild West world. And there was a bar fight opened this Wild West production, and I entered through a swinging tavern door with a six-shooter in one hand and a bullwhip in the other, and I shot the pistol and cracked the bullwhip and broke up the fight, and then got to do Shakespeare's incredible Beatrice and Benedict story from there. It was so much fun.
It almost seems like the soundtrack could have been I Shot the Sheriff.
Yeah, yeah, it really could. It was a heck of a lot of fun.
Well, speaking of fun, it was good talking with you, and
You
thank you for taking
too.
the time to be on the show.
Yeah, I'm excited to start the next cloak book soon. So I was going to offer to do a little snatch of. Do you want the introduction for cloak? Yeah.
Well, I
Uh,
think we'll save it for the real thing.
oh, okay. All right. All right. All right. Well, thank you, Jonathan. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure, and see you soon for Cloak Mage number 10.
All right.
So that was our interview with Hollis McCarthy. Thank you for coming on the show and giving us a very informative and entertaining interview. A reminder that the website with the Magic of Larleon books is demalttheauthor.com. So that is it for this week. Thank you for listening to The Pulp Writer Show. I hope you found the show useful. A reminder that you can listen to all the back episodes on https://thepulpwritershow.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave a review on your podcasting platform of choice. Stay safe and stay healthy, and we'll see you all next week.